Good, I'm Joshua.
Hi, I'm Talia, and welcome to our podcast, The Uncommon Senses, where we reflect on the nature of knowledge and on how we know what we claim to know. So, hi everyone. We are starting our special series of episodes, another special series, where we kind of talk about, just education in general. I think it's time for us to kind of talk about that since I think it's important for us as students and as past IVers to chat about this issue. We just feel like, chatting about this is should be fun. So, yeah, I think mostly we're just going to break it down to focusing on IB schools because I think that not a lot of people listen to us, but like it's okay.
Sadly.
Yeah, I mean we are just like a hidden gem. I hope.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I think yeah our primeval like target audience are basically IB kids, and then we just want to share. I think we're gonna break it down to like our IB life in general and some of our advices to them. Um, yeah, and you know what? Because basically, the thing is, we are top IB students, okay?
Definitely a
N-
top Ivy
no.
student.
If you read our bio, no, not our bio, like like the description,
Oh
Joshua
no.
got 30 out of 30 in TOK. Like that's so impressive. No one gets that, okay? No one gets so marks on.
But
And he's
Talia is a 45 marks out of 45 mark student.
oh my god.
Top
It's in the
achiever.
past. I mean, yeah, like honestly, I think just the intensity of which like I studied compared with with right now in university. I think in IB I definitely studied way harder, and I'm definitely more motivated to study like math
Mm.
subjects specifically. But we're gonna go into that in deeper. So yeah. So, because IB it focuses on like it's basically you have to do subjects with higher level and center level, and
Mm.
then you also have to do something called IAs, EEs, and CAS. So maybe we can just start right there and like talk about the subjects that we picked,
Mm-hmm.
SL and HS subjects, our IAs, and like just basically our general experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So Talia, I just want to ask, like, before we start, if you could use
Mhm.
one sentence to summarize the IB program, how would you describe it?
um, I genuinely loved it. I think it's very it helped it's definitely a subject that's very helpful
Mm.
in my life even right now, and I think it honestly a large extent of education depends on who is teaching you
Mm. Yeah, that's very
and
true.
yeah, honestly I think if TOK is taught in a very in a proper way, it's like possibly one of the most fruitful subjects that you're ever gonna get
Mm.
out of this.
Yeah, hence our
Yeah.
podcast, right?
Yeah, honestly, because we got so much from this experience we have, and all of their podcasts, a lot of them are, actually a lot of them, like, they are inspired by our classes, but also a lot of them
Mm.
are from ourselves, like, we researched all of these things ourselves outside because it was just so fun for us. So, yeah,
Yeah.
what about you? What's a word or, like, a sentence that you wanna say about the IB experience?
Well, to me, I think IB is a very controlled environment. It allows you to
Mm,
really explore your interests in a very safe way
mm,
without, having like, even if you make mistakes, even though if you, go through a lot different trials and errors, it still allows you to grow and to have like without really big consequences. And that's what I realized now
yeah.
that I've graduated and entered university, because now, you know, with GPA and
Oh.
there are ways of calculating marks. It's a lot more. I would say it's a lot more stricter and a lot more complicated as opposed to
Mm,
IB, where you can fail a test, but you can try harder next time. But I don't. I guess
yeah.
that's not the case in university. So yeah, I would definitely say it's like I would say like a
Mm.
laboratory, actually, like a very controlled, safe environment where you can test out different things. It's kind
Right.
of like experiment. And you know what you said about teachers, I think that's very true.
Mm.
I think good teachers can teach you, but the best teachers knows how to inspire. And I think,
Mm.
just a quick shout out to our IBTOK teachers, Miss
Yeah,
Smith and also Mr.
Mr.
Chin,
Chin.
who,
Mhm.
like, I think they are really good teachers. They really, sparks our interest in TOK, and hence, it's partially why we decided to continue doing this podcast, even though, we graduated. You know, and I think, you will agree that it is something that we both really enjoy to do, and, hope to share with the world.
Mhm. Yeah, oh my god, I totally agree with, everything you've said, and especially I want to add on to this
Mm.
GPA thing, because yeah,
Scary.
honestly yeah, to some extent, I wanna add on 2, like, one is the GPA, another one is, how teachers can inspire you. So, with the GPA thing, I think we have to, like, mention that both of us are currently studying in university in Hong Kong. So, it was just honestly, to me, it was very different from the studying culture back in our secondary school, because honestly, I have to say we're so privileged that we're so sheltered in the sense that the school doesn't really emphasize that much on grades. A lot
Mm,
of the grade ones is very internal. So you put pressure on yourself. You want to perform well, but then there's no
mm,
ranking. There's no you don't have a like who was the first one. You don't have like a valedictorian or whatever thing. Like you
yeah.
don't get that. But honestly, it's a lot of things on your own pressure. Like the school doesn't give you all of
Mm,
that, but um I honestly, however, I do remember like there was a time where like you get like awards and scholarships and stuff. Okay,
mm.
I'm sounding like such a little brat, but anyway, yeah, I was like,
You got a lot.
yeah, but anyway, yeah. Like I
Yeah,
do
it's not a bratty thing to say. Be proud of it. You work
it's
hard
a
for
freaking fact.
it.
But honestly, there was a time where I was so obsessed with it. I was so stressed out. I was like, okay, I have to get this many awards in this year. I've gotten so many of them last time, and I have to get a scholarship this year. Like you feel the pressure, and you pressure it on yourself, and you take it so seriously. This like external validation thing. And I think gradually as I grow up, I've become better because I realized I mean, as you grow up, you're less dependent, hopefully, on external validation. But honestly, it's still a learning process, and yeah, it still will take a long time. So yeah, there was a time where I was very obsessed with all of this. Like I was so stressed out. Like, okay, I my grade dropped in this exam. Am I still going to get this scholarship? Like, am I still going to be on top and stuff like that? I think it will give you a lot of stress, and I think a lot of people when they themselves like have very high expectations or they kind of feel like, oh, I've worked this hard, therefore I should get this grade in real life. And however, that just sometimes doesn't really happen. And a lot of it, I think in university, I gradually realized that externally it puts you with more pressure. And I kind of realized how privileged I was back in high school, where it's just is the external factor is quite minimal compared with others. Relatively small, I would say, but like in Asian culture, it's just inevitable. And another thing about like teachers inspiring you, I think this is so important, and this is also kind of like why I realized that perhaps math and STEM subjects are not really for me. And yeah, I think Joshua, you can also share about your experience, your relationship with STEM and stuff. But I remember so clearly like my favorite subjects in IB is English literature and
Ah.
also TLK. And yeah, like those are my favorite subjects, and I have never expected myself to like English literature that much.
Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
you give me that, like, the feeling that you're more of a STEM person, right? So,
Yeah.
and would you say it's also partly because of our, our teacher, Mr. Payne? Because, like,
Oh god, yeah.
I guess, yeah, it's I think we discussed a lot about him, like,
Mhm.
privately, and we yeah, and I think his teaching style is very unique. Would you say that?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it is super engaging, and, like, you feel like every single lesson you are learning something absolutely new.
Mm,
You're learning how to analyze and how to appreciate literature, which is something that rarely see I really get in, like, a lot of, like, language classes because a lot of them
mm,
um, some of them are quite exam oriented, like how you should analyze this
mm,
in terms of getting you a great mark or getting a good grade and how the mark scheme answer. I think some of them are focused on that, but then Mr. Painter's really allows you to have your own interpretation and like
mm,
it just made me realize the freedom that literature can give you or like how like non-STEM subjects can give you. I think it's like the own you basically can have your own interpretation to things, and it's something that you don't quite get from STEM, at least from my personal experience. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, part of the IB experience, as you've mentioned, this kind of, I guess, Asian mindset is that we have to get the highest possible mark possible. And
Mm.
sometimes I think it involves suppressing your own thoughts about a literature piece, especially in like subjects like
Mm.
literature or humanities, and it becomes more about writing what the examiner wants and trying to
Yeah.
adhere to a mark scheme. So I guess there's like two sides of things, and but yeah, and I also really agree with what you said about the difference between IB education and university because um yeah, I feel like one thing about the IB experience or like secondary school experience is that um you know they mark you based on your effort. I think that's one thing. Effort really matters,
Mm.
and from how your learning attitude and things, they'll mark you based on your whole person development, like how you approach
Mm.
learning itself. But I think in university it's more performance orientated, so like
Mm.
they don't really care if you attend lectures or if you really participate all that much, even though if like, for some subjects, even though if when it matters, perhaps it only accounts for around 10 to 20% of your mark, and doesn't really mean that much.
Mm.
As so I think in university, I would say it's more perhaps more exam orientated or more performance based rather than how
Mm.
much effort you give, and I guess that's also pretty representative of the real world since I
Yeah.
guess when you're in a
Mm.
underemployment, they really look at your performance rather than how much time you spend just sitting there and working.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess that's why university is a transition between a secondary school experience to real life, since it really hits you with this hard reality that
Yeah.
no matter you can put in a lot of effort or you can put in a little effort, but no matter what, you still have to deliver that,
Yeah.
quality of work.
Yeah, exactly. Like in your university, you're like literally adults. And like there's
Mm.
also in high school you have this sense of like a class, at least for us. Like we are in a
Uh-huh.
classroom. We know basically know everyone from our grade. But then university is definitely not the case. You have different people,
Mm.
different classes, and it's it's just you meet a lot more people, and it's much harder to maintain, relationships with people as well, and I think, yeah, pretty much that's very, representative of, like, the real world out there. But then, yeah, also it's kinda like, I don't think I really hate it when people are like, yeah, you need to get used to this because this is you're an adult now. This is, like, the reality now." But then I'm pretty sure no one likes that reality. Like we all hope,
Yeah.
yeah, we all hope we can build nice relationships. We all hope that we can be treated as an individual instead of like a machine who performs like who is judged based on performance. I think we all wish that, yeah, we can really be seen as a human being, and like it's
Mm.
just kind of frustrating at the beginning when you are just chucked in this environment. Yeah, and yeah, basically, I feel like maybe we can just talk more about like our IB subjects and stuff. So yeah, just kind of sharing our own experience with IB, and basically, a lot of my subjects are very like STEM based. My higher level are math, AAHL, physics, HL and Econ HL. My standard level are Chinese language and literature, English
Mm.
literature, and geography. So you can tell that I was pretty much, I was like, yeah, let's go and do some STEM subjects. But then life, university did not treat me that nice with all of these. And yeah, maybe Joshua, you can share your experience first, and then we can like unpack this
Yeah.
STEM subjects thing.
Okay, so for me, I chose chemistry, biology, and business for my higher level, and for my lower standard level, I chose English, Chinese, and mathematics. So,
Mm,
um, just by looking at my subject, it seems like I'm a very like STEM orientated person,
yeah.
but like I guess a lot of the decisions behind choosing my subjects was based on pragmatics rather than
Mm,
interest. So, you
mm,
know, um my parents, as teachers, they understood that in the university applications, they're really, if you want to choose something like perhaps like medical related subjects,
mm,
um, which was which was the direction that they tried to steer me towards, because they're like,
yeah.
oh, it's more there's more security in that path.
Mm,
So they they pushed me to choose chemistry and biology. So like um I will be able to, more doors will be open for me when I was like choosing my subjects in university.
mm,
And I guess like I really came to, I really grew to, I really came to like biology because
yeah.
I really enjoyed the, kind of, as you've mentioned before, the storytelling aspects of it. And
Mm,
I think it's less, just really textbook knowledge and more, processes and mechanisms you can actually kind of imagine in like what's going on in real life. And
okay.
as for chemistry, I'm a bit my interest kind of falter a bit in that discipline because
Mm,
I realized I didn't really like just memorizing symbols, but I persevered. And
yeah.
business and for me business was more of a kind of like subject that I choose really based on my interest because
Mm,
I think if you look around us, business exist everywhere, and
yeah.
I think it's a very practical and really realistic subject to do. And also
Mm,
I'm kind of interested in understanding how companies come to be and how something that's so powerful has such a huge grasp on our daily life actually came to
mm,
be that way. Yeah, I guess
right.
that's that's my overall journey. So tell me,
Yeah.
is your journey somewhat similar, or do you like have something really different in your experience?
Right. So, first of all, I just really want to mention the point that it's a privilege to choose what you like. Like,
Yes,
not everyone,
definitely.
yeah, not everyone get that because financials and like if you can support yourself financially, it is a factor that you should consider when you're choosing your subjects and stuff. And unless you're super rich, then yeah, you can do whatever you want. Sadly, we're living in a world like that. And for my experience, honestly, I totally get the pressure to choose medicine. Like it was mentioned to me before, but
Mm.
I know from IGCSE that I do not like chemistry. And I still
Uh,
don't really like that now. I'm okay with biology, but at that point, I feel like any subjects related to memorization is kind of stupid, which
mm,
I want to bring this kind of STEM idea. Uh, I chose math, physics. I was planning to choose chemistry, HL, so like the holy trinity. I don't know, like very difficult subjects in IB. I was planning on choosing chemistry. I dropped it after the second week and changed it for econ. As I was choosing it because I was like, maybe I have more paths. I possibly can study, like medicine if I choose chemistry. But
mm,
then I was like, no, 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 no. This is not for me. What are the chances that we're gonna study um medicine? Uh at that point, very low. And then I was just like, yeah, let's just go with econ because honestly, I think econ was pretty fun. Um, so I chose math and physics and econ. Like at that point, you can see like I genuinely, and those are the subjects that I genuinely enjoyed. Like all of these subjects that I picked are subjects that I liked. Um, but then I feel like at that point, like looking back, I was pretty much, I think I gaslighted myself into liking math and physics. Because I feel like I've mentioned about this before. Because I think it's a cool thing, and I was the only one of the only girls in my grade who did that, and is pursuing it in university. I thought that was cool, and I feel like I enjoyed the external validation. People thinking like, "Oh, you're the cool that girl who enjoys these subjects." At that point, that's honestly what I thought. I was kind of but then I feel like I should give my past self a little bit more credit. Like at that point, I genuinely think that I enjoyed math and physics and stuff. But then, like if you looked at, there are hints that I don't enjoy it. Like if I'm not there to willingly go and like explore new things. I'm just always in my comfort zone and just doing some random other things that are within my knowledge boundaries, but I'm not always like going out and like reaching for the next step because I'm just not interested in that. Like math competitions, I've tried, physics Olympiad, I tried, like no, they're not for me. I do not like it. I don't like to practice it because once I kind of face a challenge in any of these subjects, I don't think it's fun. I like John. I don't think it's fun. Yeah, I just I at that point I was already kind of like a huge red flag, but then I just chose to ignore it because I think things are gonna be better if I just go to university and went for this subject. So naturally, if you like math and physics, you go for CS. I think that's just
Mm,
computer science. That's just the path that's very typical for people who like math and physics. And I did do some programming, but then honestly, it was just we're stuck in a pandemic. I was like, let's just
mm.
prepare for this. But I was not very good at coding. Not gonna lie, I was very bad at it, and I'm not. I hate computers. I do not like it. I just want computer programs to work for me, but then I'm not interested in it at all, honestly speaking. So I feel like there is definitely a lot of pressure uh, in like this gender issue in STEM
Mm,
subjects, which made me realize that. But honestly, I'm very grateful for this change that I'm having right now because I think I realized what I enjoy. And I think I would never realize it if I didn't choose to see a subject because people might be like, oh, if you're will end up choosing this subject, if you're gonna end up changing it anyway, then why did you just choose that in the first place? Something that my mom would say. And like she'd be like, "Oh, I told you not to study, choose this. Like now you're suffering and stuff." But like, if I never tried, then I would never know.
mm,
And if I never tried, then I would definitely regret that at a later place in my life. Like, why didn't I just go for it? Because I will always have that IT girl dream that
mm,
if I never tried it. And yeah, once you try, you realize that okay, reality is different and you're able to see yourself more objectively. And I think that's where, it just made you grow and stuff. And change is not a bad thing. Change is perfectly fine. But I think our society also makes change sound like it's bad. Like it's
mm,
if you just go for it and change it's something that you have to start over again is an exhausting process and it is exhausting but I think it's also very rewarding. So yeah, Joshua, what about your relationship with STEM? Because I think we talked about this when we were
mm.
interviewing Jasmine, and yeah, I think you brought it up as well on STEM and the gender
Y-
pressure.
Yeah, but, before I start, I just want to, make some quick response to what you've just said because
Sure.
it made me, realize one thing, and that is that
Mm.
I guess one of the problems with having, as we've mentioned, like a controlled environment in secondary school is that you're not really
Mm.
able to see, do you really enjoy the subject itself or do you just enjoy, doing the
The
exam or
compliment.
doing, yeah, the
Oh,
compliment, the validation you get from,
yeah,
being good at it
yeah,
rather than you
yeah,
actually genuinely liking the subject, right? I think that's what,
yeah.
would you say that's your journey with math?
Yeah, for sure. Like now I kind of realize I like math because I learned it, I know how to do it, and, like, I just have to do computation, as what John was saying. I just do computation,
Mm,
and when you're doing these things that are quite repetitive, because like,
mm,
if you do a lot of past papers, you know the math, they're just you know how to do it, then you know how to do it. Like,
mm.
it's in a very nice format, and it's just, like, doing very repetitive things, and humans, I feel like we like to do repetitive things. It's, like, a very
Yeah.
relaxing thing, very satisfying thing. But it was definitely a lot enjoyment from, like, the challenge that it has. So, definitely, I would say so.
Yeah, and I guess that's, and just to digress a little, I guess
Mm.
that's the reason why so many people change their majors in university. And as you
Mm.
mentioned, it's perfectly fine to change majors or to change paths because university, you know, what it's meant to do is to, transition you to real life. So, you know,
Mm.
um, allows you to explore yourself and really to rediscover your interest. And I guess
Yeah.
that's what university has done for you. And
Mm.
from what you said about change, I guess another thing to keep in mind as an IB student or even as a university student is that we're not supposed to, I guess, as you know, we're not really supposed to just to accept reality that's given to us, not to like
Mm.
face reality, but rather as leaders of the future. I think we're supposed to be the people who molds reality and to create new beginnings rather than
Mm.
following in other people's footsteps. Which I think it just comes to this whole idea that we lead our own lives and our life
Yeah.
is what we make it to be.
Yeah.
And circling back to my own um IB experience, especially in STEM subjects, I think what you said really rings true to me because I think especially in the realm of chemistry, even though
Mm.
I think I wouldn't say I'm super interested, but perhaps I'm more accepting of some aspects of it. I
Yeah.
guess I didn't really like chemistry from the start because
Yeah.
I always see myself as more of a biology person. Like,
Mm.
I like memorizing things, but I guess it's the kind of weird combination between memorization and also a bit of
Mm.
computation in chemistry that
Yeah.
I just didn't enjoy. Like, it's just a
Right.
weird thing for me. And honestly, in chemistry, because the discipline is so broad, I think,
Mm.
it I really don't see how I'm supposed to use some aspects of it, even though I'm forced to learn it. For example, like in chemistry,
Right.
we learn about orbitals, and you know, when we look into chemistry, like really at a micro level, it kind of ventures a bit into physics, which I'm pretty sure I definitely does not like. So I guess that also really adds on to the kind of, I wouldn't say resentment, but perhaps a kind of hesitation when doing
Mm.
chemistry. And I think that also translates onto into university life.
Right.
I still don't get good marks in like chemistry subjects, but I think shh, secret.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's I thank God I don't have to do it more of it now that I'm entering second year and I'm doing more biology stuff. And which I think it's like a weird thing because as you mentioned, to get into like perhaps like medicine or like medical subjects, they
Mm.
require you to have like a chemistry
Yeah.
basis. But if you really like do in university, when you really do these subjects, you start to realize that biology is actually more important because um well we're basically learning about biological systems. So it will make
Mm.
sense, to really, the discipline is more closer to biology than with chemistry. And
Mhm.
yeah, so my point is like, definitely for why I chose chemistry in IB, it's not really, I guess, not due to personal interest, but more about
Yeah.
like future pathways or perhaps like, as if you mentioned, like
Mm.
parental expectations, which seems to
Mm.
play a big role when especially in like Asian society,
Yeah.
this kind of consideration when students choose their subject. So um that I'm interested, Talia, like that your parents
Mm.
also like kind of push you in different ways when no, or perhaps like affect your decision making when you're choosing your IB subjects.
Oh, well, I think not so much with IB subjects because I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, but definitely with career, which is Also kind of where I realized that, my parents, like, especially my mom, I'm just gonna expose her in this episode, but
It's
I
okay,
love you,
hidden
mom.
gem, right?
Yeah, I love you, but then yeah, I just wanna be transparent here, and I think a lot of Asian parents will have the same, and honestly, a lot of our audience is in Hong Kong, so let's just talk about this anyway. So, yeah, I feel like that's when I kind of realized that my mom doesn't say it, like, she was like, "It's okay, like, whatever grade you get, it doesn't matter." She's always that very chill parent. But then in university where I kind of struggled a lot with one of my computer science courses, that's when I realized that she cares about it like a lot. And
Oh. In
not
what way? Like,
you like
how does she show it?
like like um like my CS thing, she will be like, I told you not to choose this. I told you you're
Oh.
not interested in like stuff like that. And then honestly, it hurts because I was so determined to do it. My whole life, I was like, okay, I like STEM, I like math, I like physics. And then I realized I don't. Like for me, it was a huge challenge to accept that of myself. And plus the fact that my mom was, like, telling me that, making me feel like I was stupid and, like, regretting, my choices. It felt bad, even though I tell myself, like, it's perfectly fine for me to experience all of this. Because if I never tried it, then I will never know, and it's a
Mm,
great thing that I've tried it and realized that how things were. But then still, because I'm pretty close with my mom, and she's like one of a very important figure in my life. So then the fact that she told me about this, it's definitely going to have an impact on me and my choices. And I think it definitely made me doubt when I withdrew that course. Like, I'm just gonna do this forever for all of my courses. If it's too hard, if I don't understand, then I'm just gonna adios, goodbye. I'm dropping this course. I'm not gonna face the challenge. Like, is it just am I like this kind of person, this cowardly person? And my mom definitely reinforced that. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I know she wants me to be good. I know she wants me to, you know that I should face a challenge. But then like she's just making me doubt myself even more. Like
mm.
from a objective mom point of view, like she thinks that I'm also someone who just runs away from challenges and stuff like that. So I can't believe I'm talking about this in such a calm voice because I think 3 weeks ago, I would have fucking cried. I would have cried. So I wanna really talk about, like, mental health and stuff. So
Mm.
definitely my mom has persuaded me to not choose CS in the past and even in IB, but then I'm just very glad that I chose it at this point. I'm happy that I found something new about myself, and I think it's just something that your parents, whatever they say, they just yeah, if you're strong enough and you're independent enough, if you're sure enough of what you like and what you can do, and that is able to support yourself financially in the future, then I think whatever other people say, you just take it as a grain of salt. Like, but then it would take time. It would take a lot of time
Mm.
for you to get over that and like understand that no matter what your parents say, it's like what you've said at the end of the day, you're going to walk your own path. And
Yes.
it's honestly your choice. Are you willing to, um, you know, take a subject that you personally really enjoy, or are you going to follow an advice or suggestion from your parents? It's honestly what you value more. Like, do you value yourself more, or do you value like a relationship with parents more, or do you want to enjoy a life that you yourself can get more benefit, or do you want to enjoy a life where it's stable and then it's just very peaceful and then you have great things happening in that peaceful life. And yeah, a lot of adventures like are nice things. Not every day is an adventure, okay? Like
Yeah.
in a very you know repetitive life, there's going to be tiny elements of surprise and joy inside. So it really just depends on what kind of life you want and what you value more. So yeah.
Yes. I think, and contrary to what perhaps your mother has said, I think you're actually very brave because,
Oh.
um, uh, I'm not just saying this to like to be a sycophant or anything like that, but like, I'm I generally think you have a lot of courage in actually realizing that computer science is not your thing, and actually have the courage of changing your major. And I think that's a
Mm.
huge undertaking. So, give yourself
Oh,
more credit for that. And
thanks.
yeah, and I think, a true coward in my perspective is that a true coward will actually, really give into external pressure and to
Mm,
perhaps graduate with a bachelor's in computer science and live a life where live a life that's constantly chasing his or
mm,
her parents' expectations or what society um, wants the person to do rather than
mm.
actually chasing his or her own dreams. So I think, that's actually something that's very commendable. And I think that's,
Yay.
you know, I think that's something that's, I think you made the right decision, basically.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to say.
thanks.
And, circling back to
Mm,
IB life.
yeah,
I
sure.
think I think up until now we talked a lot about choosing our own path and
Mm,
choosing IB subjects because definitely our IB subjects has a lot to do with our university path and in turn has a huge impact on our future careers. And let's talk a bit more about the final results. So when you receive your IB grades, what was your reaction? Were you happy? And what's our plan? What sort of thoughts, went through your mind when you received your results?
oh. Okay, so I think for us it's kind of special because we were like we just the pandemic was like on and off for us, and it was online and then offline, like physical education face to face, and then like online again and half days, stuff like that. So honestly, I do appreciate that there's this great inflation situation going on. I think, yeah, people are like, "Oh, you guys get great inflation," but, like, yeah, we also have a lot of challenges in our education,
Mhm.
and I think we can't just feel like, yeah, there's just this great inflation situation because our education, especially I think you can attest to this, like, your lab work in,
Mhm.
like, your science, biology, chemistry, definitely was, like it was not the same, and I just
Yeah.
feel like when I received it, I kind of I feel like cold. That's whoa, like, okay. Like
Mhm.
it was definitely pretty cold to get 45, right? Like it was for sure very cold to have
Yeah.
that. Yeah, did I expect that? Uh, Not really. Like I was just potentially there's like I have the potential. Everyone has the potential, but then getting it's just it felt pretty surreal, and yeah, you've heard from people like how hard it is to actually get that, and you know, I also don't think I studied like that hard, but I study very hard for math and physics, which are my
Mhm.
highest scoring ones, and I realized that the reason why I'm good at those two subjects or have good grades throughout my life is because I did a lot of practice on them, and I focused a lot on that. And yeah, every time I did a math or physics good, I felt so nervous that I want to vomit because I have such a high expectation of myself. So anyway, receiving the final result, yeah, I was happy, and honestly, my math physics, like I said, is the highest, so it kind of like made me felt really sure that about my path that I picked, which is CS slash engineering
Mhm.
subjects. Um,
And
so
that's
yeah,
good,
like
right? It really shows like your effort really paid off. And
yeah,
it's
thank
something to
God
be
it paid
proud of,
off.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Josh, what about you? Like, what about like your final results and like perhaps how does that, make you feel about university life back then as a fresh high school graduate?
It came as a surprise to me because
Mm.
uh for me my results were quite weird as like if
Oh,
you can
yeah, I
say that because
remember. Yeah,
yeah,
I know
for me
why.
I did well in subjects that I'm supposedly bad at. So like I actually got like high marks in math and
Mm.
those subjects, but I did like
Yay.
the worst in subjects that I'm more confident in. For example, like English.
Yeah,
I
I
actually really enjoyed the
remember.
subject, but then like I got like a 4, which was really bad.
It's
And
just so weird.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guess it just comes to show, like, of course, it kind of hurts a bit, back then because I was a bit
Yeah,
disappointed in
for
myself. But
sure.
now I think, perhaps now that everything has passed and it's water under the bridge, I think
Mm.
it just comes to show that you never know when life will throw a curveball at you. So
Yeah.
I guess you just really have to prepare yourself, mentally and perhaps academically
Mm.
to have a plan B, so that you still have, a career path laid out for you, even though if your results does not match your expectations. And I
Yeah.
would say that, everything you know, actually worked out in the end. So I guess to all
Mm.
the IB students out there, even though your grades are important because they are the
Mm.
thing that, prove your academic capabilities, I
Mm.
wouldn't say don't stress too much, of it,
Yeah.
because it's after all, it's just an examination. And after you really go on to university, as we've mentioned so far, it actually doesn't really matter because
Mm.
university
True.
subjects are really different from what you've
Yeah.
done in IB. But yeah, I think just a ending thought.
Mm.
Um, um just to balance your time well, I would say, like,
Mm. Sure.
you should excel in other areas as well, as academically, and to actually put effort into your IP subjects. And
Yeah.
yeah, so you know, Talia, what kind of
Mm.
advice would you give, like, IB students? Now that we've mentioned,
Right.
as a top achiever, which, is something that's super good and, super nice to have. So,
No.
well, what advice would you give, like, to IB students who want to achieve, like, these sort
Yeah.
of results?
Huh. Honestly, I like that you mentioned that you should have a nice, time management and balance. Time management
Mm,
is so hard to achieve for us too, because we are like we're the ones that do things. We go with the flow. We don't have like a concrete plan with everything. You can see it through like the rate that we post episodes and stuff. Like we don't have a plan. We just if we liked it, we will do it. Like and honestly, I think that also relates to like CAS, right, in IB,
mm,
because CAS is kind of like a balance from your school life. And honestly, do CAS activities that are meaningful, that you enjoy. And I think that is one of my tips. Just CAS activities, and the ones that I did, it meant quite a lot to me, and I truly, truly enjoyed it. And I think also this also applies for like your university application, especially US universities, because your CAS subjects can be your extracurriculars. And an advice is you know what you want to do. If you know what you want to do, you have a great advantage. I think that's what I want to say, because I think CAS is a great way for you to explore your interests as well.
mm,
And some people know their interest from the very start. And for those people, if you're applying to universities, you will get an advantage for sure. Even in US universities where the application system, it's I would say it has more freedom than the rest of the places
mm,
that I think we will discuss in the next episode possibly. It's just again, once again, like the individual thing and also performance based thing for the society. US individual, these CAS experiences might be a place for you to explore, but then if you are very university oriented, application oriented, you will have like a very strong theme. Like all your activities are possibly going to revolve around one particular theme. But then maybe you're
mm,
still at that stage where exploring what you like, and your subjects can be all over the place. Your interests can be all over the place because you are
mm,
exploring. And the thing is, I think it's perfectly fine if you're still exploring. You don't know what you want yet, and you go for these. But you do have to know that a drawback is that it's going to be a disadvantage for you when you go and apply for universities.
mm,
Um, yeah, it's just the way the world operates, and there's nothing that we can do too much about this. Honestly, I for me, I think I would strongly encourage you to explore more if you don't know what you like yet.
mm,
And the university thing, I think university is important, but I think as we realize that it's not everything. And it's really what you use with that university time. Like you can just go there, study, and get graduate, but then you can just basically learn nothing from the course from your 4 years or even more years at university. It's really how you make out of it. So I
Yeah, I
think
think that's
those,
a really good approach. Yeah, sorry, go
yeah.
on.
No, no, no. I'm
Mhm.
just kind of finishing. I think those are like kind of my advice. Have fun in CAS. That's the fun that you're gonna get. Yeah. What
Yeah,
about you, Joshua? What are your advices to IB kids?
well, like for me, I would say one thing is that you mentioned a lot about extracurricular activities and exploring yourself, which I think it's a
Mm,
very super cool perspective to have. Since I guess a lot of top achievers would just tell you to study a lot or do a lot of past papers, but
yeah.
I guess other than really just trying to boosting your resume, I think you should spend equally as much time in actually exploring what you like, as you've
Mm,
mentioned. And I think that's actually very important because, or some would even argue, more important than what you've been doing in IB, like the subjects you've
mm,
been learning in IB, because those are the things that stay with you and determine
yeah.
your happiness and your lifestyle in the future. And so with that in mind, I would like to, the advice I offer are more, less academic, even though
Mhm,
it's supposed to be an IB episode. But I would, try to like give my thoughts on secondary school so
mm,
far. So like, I think one thing I would say is like really treasure your time at school because in university you realize that you make some of your best and truest friend in secondary school. So I tell you
yeah.
here,
Yeah. That's so true.
yeah. But like the point is when you go to university, you go to lectures and you
Mm,
find you start finding it hard to really make close relationships or close
and
friendships, at least
maintain.
from my
Yeah.
experience, and maintain them as you
Mm,
yeah as you've said, because a lot of the time you'll only be in the same class as someone, for example, for one semester, so for one course,
yeah.
and you really won't have that closeness you have with like people you actually literally grow up with, as with done in secondary school.
For sure.
So I would say like really try to spend as much time as you can with your friends, and
Mm,
a lot of your after you graduate you realize that a lot of your friends or a lot of your classmates will actually go all over the world for their universities and having their own life. So
mm,
really hold on to those relationships you really treasure, and you start to realize that um how important
mm,
close friendship is at
yeah.
school. And I know some people may also like kind of worry about their social life in
Mm-hmm.
secondary school, and how there's like a hierarchy or like a kind of you worry about your popularity amongst your fellow
Mm,
classmates. And I just want to say
right.
that as I've mentioned, because after you graduate everyone will be essentially leaving and just going on about their own life. So I would
Mm,
say like those things doesn't really matter, and I think just hold on to the relationship that you find, you hold
mm,
dearest to your heart, and try to maintain them. As I think those are the
yeah.
friends that really accompany you along in life. And yeah, so that's about kind of the social aspects of
Mm,
at least like how I feel like how you should treat secondary school life. And
yeah.
in terms of exams, I would say relating to my point just now, really work with your peers and work with your classmates, because I think they are your greatest source of motivation, as any task would seem fun or like easier when you're doing with other people, because you're kind of sharing your feelings, and you're kind of really sharing your stress,
Mm,
because I know IB can be like a really stressful thing to undertake. So I
mm,
guess like for example, like for our TOK essay, I think part of the reason why for at least for me personally, I find it so fun is because I'm able to cross. I was able to cross check my my essay with my peers, and I was able to like look at their ideas and just
mm,
try to make each other a better writer and try to get a better mark for all of us. So I think that's a way to connect with your classmates, as well as finding motivation in your studies. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think Talia, we also did that for for your 2K essay, right? You're part of our
Yeah.
peer checking group. So what were your
Yeah.
thoughts? So do you think it helped you in your studies in TOK?
Yeah, honestly, I want to thank you guys so much for for looking at my essays. And I think we didn't I think yeah, I basically we didn't do it just for TLK. We also did it for university personal statement, which we can talk about it in the next episodes on
Yeah.
university applications and stuff. And honestly, it was so helpful because you get advices, you get people to look at it from their perspective, and you know which parts that you should possibly change and which part is good, which part is bad. And I honestly like that. And it made you feel safe. Like it made you feel like you're not alone in this process. Like
Mm.
there's people who are struggling together with you. And you guys are collectively, trying to make this experience good. And honestly, reading those essays also give you a brand new perspective on, the things that you've been writing about. And yeah, just have amazing friends like Joshua who has a lot of cool ideas and
And friends like
you
Talia who really like
no.
have a lot of
No.
inspiration and really well researched points, I may add, in her
Oh
essay. And
wow.
I
Wow.
was gonna say I learned so much from what you wrote, and this like saying objectively, and
Damn. I don't
not
even
as your friend,
remember
but
what
like
I
as
wrote.
a objective. I remember you wrote about like something like math related,
Yeah,
and like talking
yes.
about your EE, and I think that was so
Yeah. Oh my
special
god,
because
thanks.
as a person that does not particularly like math, I think your perspective was very refreshing because I never really
Okay.
thought, art and math could really mix together and you can really
Yeah.
find beauty in math because to me, math is ugly. But
It's
like,
ugly to me now.
okay, we, we find the same voice right now.
Yeah, finally we're in sync.
We're in sync, yeah.
Yeah, and oh yeah, I do have another final advice, I think, for high school students is that don't stress out too much about university subjects or IB subjects. I think we
Mm,
did talk about you should choose the right one. You should think about your career, what you want to do, but then also don't stress out about it too much because you I think in in secondary school, you are just you just feel like there's so little jobs out there, that there's so little careers out there for you to pick. But then you once you're in university, you are exposed to all of these opportunities and all of
mm,
these companies that you have never heard, and you have no idea what they do, but they exist out there. And honestly, I didn't know business consulting is a thing. I didn't know what that thing is, and what is fintech, what is blockchain. I mean, I still don't really know, and I'm not very interested in that,
mm.
but then at least I know that they exist and stuff like that. But yeah, those are jobs that maybe you've never heard of, and you were have no idea that they're out there in the world. But then just know that they're out there, and a lot of them, I think you don't have to be a lot of them do have specific requirement for a subject that maybe you have to major in what or what, blah blah blah. But then a lot of them, I think they don't have that specific requirement. You have your own skill set and then you can apply it. I don't know if this is a very idealistic look on future careers
No,
or
no, definitely. I was about to like agree with you because like for those that I'll talk more about it, in our next episode when we talk about, university application and university life. But
mm,
like when I was applying, all I had in mind was, healthcare subjects because I was like, oh,
mm,
that was a stable path to be on. But currently right now I'm in an application on like, perhaps changing my not
yeah,
changing, like articulating to
mm.
veterinary medicine because I literally did not think of that when I was trying to choose my, university subjects, and it just made me realize how narrow-minded I was because I didn't do enough
Yeah,
research, and
yeah,
because I was all about okay, if I enjoy biology, all I could do is help people. I never really thought about helping animals and other
mm,
organisms out there.
yeah.
So definitely I would say from a secondary school point of view, what you see now is actually pretty narrow compared to what you will actually
True.
experience once you go to university, and no doubt what you will experience when you're in the real world. So, just keep that in mind when, I guess, as you've mentioned, when we're choosing your IB
Mm.
subjects, and just enjoy the ride, because
Yeah.
as we mentioned, IB is supposed to be a safe environment. So just
Yeah.
have some fun with it, experiment around, and just try to discover yourself, because you may not have the opportunity later when the kind of, as you mentioned, the pressure of university and everything comes crashing down. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, absolutely agree. I think in university you also find so much about yourself as well. And like
Mm.
you're also, yeah, I mean, it's perfectly fine that what you do when you are like 17, 18 ended up not being something you're interested in. Like
A lot of
you
people go through that, right?
yeah, your life has just started literally. Like I'm now thinking about this like yeah, our life just started and like you're not supposed to know what you want to do at 20. Like
Mm.
I don't think I don't you really know that and I don't really think that, the education system kind of prepares you for that either. So
Yeah,
I
literally millions of people around the world like change their careers because they
yes.
realized that they chose something wrong in their university years,
Exactly.
or in their high school years. And that's, I guess, that's just the fun of life, right? The kind of the process of discovering yourself, and
Yeah.
always the ability to dream and to chase your dreams. I think that's what makes life so fun. And
Yeah. That's
Talia and I always talk about, like, what we want to do in the future, and perhaps, all sorts of crazy ideas. And I think those are just, what makes life so exciting, because if life is what you plan it out to be, I think that's just so boring, and,
Mm.
just cookie cutter like, if you could, say that.
Yeah, I mean it's a fun thing and it can be also be a frustrating process, but I think it will
Mm,
be really nice and I mean honestly I can't stress enough that we are so privileged to be able to, have the time to chase our dream and realize it because I think in so many people's life that they're so numb like what is the dream like I can't even
yeah.
survive and yeah I just wanted to say that we're very privileged to do this and like I think also yeah, I think that's also kind of where I was very interested in like a lot of social issues about my life, and I kind of realized that I want to make an impact with things that are relating to human being and also with nature thing. Like I'm a people's
Mm.
person, even though I'm an introvert, but I do like to help others, and I do like to say like I want to make this world a better place because this world is fucked up. There's
Yeah.
there's so many things and I just feel like I'm privileged and I want to, you know, kind of understand people better and like
Mm.
yeah, basically I think that the thing is the issue of the choice thing, right? Like I feel like so many people they don't have a choice and I'm so glad that we do and I think it's a privilege that we do have this choice. And I think a lot of kids who are doing the IB have a choice because you're doing the IB and it's not something that everyone can get access to. Um, so yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's just not just a choice for like people that think are, not as privileged. Like maybe immediately you can think, okay, those who are perhaps living in very far away areas or like rural areas or economically they can't really afford a lot of things. But I also think it's a choice for people in the city, for people who feel like they have to follow certain pathways and let them know that they also have a choice to explore themselves and do whatever they want.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree with, like, what you said about how this world is kind of screwed up. And I guess that's the kind of a kind of product, I guess, partially for,
Mm.
like, how
True, true.
our education system and how our society perceives certain subjects,
Yeah.
because we're told to really pursue STEM subjects as something that is seen as really lucrative in the future,
Mm.
because I guess there's just this really short termism in this kind of, like, people's perception, in that, oh, we really want to as a society really want to invest in subjects that produce immediate results. Perhaps
Mm,
like in medicine, you're able to immediately perhaps prolong someone's life, or
yeah.
in like engineering, you're able to have the working knowledge to actually operate machines or invent machines.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, but I
yeah.
think as you mentioned, the we're kind of neglecting, a lot of different subjects that are equally or if I could say even more important, perhaps like
Mm,
related to sustainability, how our society uses resources, the humanities, and
mm,
how evaluating how society should be operating. I think there definitely should be more thoughts and more
yeah.
people dedicating their lives to that. I think that's what will change the world and make our world a better place. So,
Yeah.
and after all, isn't that what being an IB student is all about? I guess
Mm,
that's isn't that what the programs is intended to do. So
yeah.
yeah, I guess of course we can go like more into that later when we're talking about our university application system, or indeed like university life in general, and how it relates to
Mm,
our current and future plans. I guess that's what we're
yeah.
trying to do in this special series, just to talk about life in general, and how at least from our perspective, how we see
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, that's it. That's what about, IB, right? Like I think maybe you're listening this as someone of a different age from a different place in the world. But then what IB is trying to bring is like the things that transcend through a time and space. Like
Intertextuality.
yeah, like maybe you're not in Hong Kong, you're not an Asian person, and maybe you're not a university student or anything, but then I want you to like kind of think about the things that you relate to us and the things that you don't relate to us. And yeah, just I think it's just gonna be a very fun series and conversational thing where we share about our thoughts and things. So yeah, I guess this is the end of
Yeah.
our episode.
And as always, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Even though, as
Yeah.
we've mentioned, we're a hidden gem and not a lot of people actually listen to, what we are saying now. But I
Yeah.
guess, I guess personally, right? We've discussed how, we want to keep this series, going. So as a perhaps, even though if no one listens to us, we want to keep it as a personal
Yeah, pet
kind of
project thing.
keepsake of our thoughts when we're young and naive, I guess. And
Yeah.
anyways, but like we're so glad to have you on with us in this journey to like where we're recording our thoughts, and and hopefully what we said really could inspire you and to really change the way you feel things. And so
Mm,
thank you for listening to our podcast,
yay.
and we'll see you next time in the Uncommon Senses.